From the Casper Mountain Preservation Alliance, they sent a press release as to why they decided not to come tonight, which of course is their prerogative. Casper Mountain Preservation Alliance declines invitation to Town Hall due to lack of transparency. Casper, Wyoming, the Casper Mountain Preservation Alliance, has declined the invitation to participate in the upcoming Town Hall event organized by Prism Logistics on July 11th. The decision stems from concerns over lack of transparency and inadequate information shared by Prism Logistics LLC, owned by Kyle True, and Mr. True is who will be speaking tonight. In recent communications, CMPA emphasized the importance of preserving the new comprehensive information to the community. The proposed format of the town hall, 15-minute presentations followed by a limited question and answer, fails to provide the necessary depth and clarity to address community concerns effectively. Despite requests, Mr. True has not provided detailed information on key issues, such as the timeline for the mining process, the extent of the affected areas, dust mitigation plans, water sources, or mining activities. This lack of information prevents productive and informed dialogue, making the event entirely unfair and unproductive. CMPA remains committed to informing the public about the potential impacts of the proposed gravel pit on residential neighborhoods, water systems, and the character of Casper Mountain. The Alliance will continue to advocate for alternative mining locations and ensure the community's concerns are heard. For more information about CMP efforts, they have preservecaspermountain.com. And there was a response to this one, which our pastor has for us.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read through the response, and I don't know about you, but I find this very informative. So just hear what Mr. True's response was. Prism Logistics is open to talking, listening, and improving Wyoming. The idea that one party can demand all materials and communications submitted by or on behalf of another to any and all government agencies as a prerequisite for conversation is surprising. The fact that a refusal to supply what appears to be pre-trial discovery information is labeled as a lack of transparency is also curious. Remember that the CMPA has publicly announced plans to sue both the state of Wyoming and Prism Logistics if this project moves forward. That litigious atmosphere can be stifling of an open dialogue. And so attached, he goes on further, attached, please find the demand letter. He has agreed to meet with them, only one condition, that I'm able to film the meeting to ensure that nobody is misquoted. Later on, to see from our subsequent response also included within. This is a complete reversal from the initial CMPA stated commitment to curiosity, to dialogue, to understanding, and negotiation. Instead, they are continuing to spread misinformation and refusing to talk. Well, that is their right. Prism Logistics has continued on another path, open dialogue, with anyone concerned about a very customary, quite small proposed gravel operation that would generate over a dozen good jobs and would supply gravel that Casper needs. We believe that Michael, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Fernald's grandfather's commitment to curiosity, dialogue, understanding, and negotiation are quite good guideposts for how to work through an issue with passions on both sides. I personally hope that CMPA will reconsider this refusal to open dialogue with a stellar host. Wow, you got stellar host out of the deal. Glenn Woods, at no cost to CMPA to get out their message. It will be an environment where their assertions could be challenged for accuracy and applicability, however, which may be their reason to decline. And in conclusion, the fundamental issue, however, is the appropriate time and place for economic development and states' right to develop land it owns for school funding. That is open for debate and is a public policy concern for all of Natrona County and Wyoming. So I look forward to our gathering at the Ramcota this Thursday tonight to get out the good word that gravel operations are not dangerous to area residents and can be managed quite responsibly. Kyle True. Thank you.
Now, we did get also from Casper Mountain Preservation Alliance this letter, which is for Kyle True, manager of Prism Logistics. On April 17, 2024, you called to discuss rescheduling our April 18th meeting and mentioned you would provide alternative dates to the following week. As I did not receive a follow-up call, I assume we were either unavailable or no longer wished to meet during the library or Liberty's Place for You meeting. May 9th at the Ramcota Hotel, you expressed interest in meeting with Casper Mountain Preservation Alliance to discuss your planned gravel mining operations. We accept. Prior to the meeting, we need the following information. And this goes back to where they said this information was not provided. And there's a lot listed here, but I'll go down to the mining plan. Expected primary and secondary production to be mined, total affected areas during the operation, a list of affiliated entities who Prism Logistics worked with, information regarding plans, other LMO on lands that you have leased, whether operated by Prism Logistics or other entities, water source and dust mitigation, as they said in their prior letter, and the number of open acres to be open at any time. So you can see that there's been quite a bit of a back and forth between the two entities on this. And the purpose of tonight was, again, to get them here. And the discussion was going to be about 10 to 15 minutes here and 10 to 15 minutes here so they can present the case to you, which case you would get not a court hearing, but a court of public opinion, so they could try to convince you one way or the other of their stance on this and where they're coming from. That's when the format would be open to you. Now, since we only have one side here, here's what we're going to end up doing. So Mr. True will come up and give his presentation, and then afterwards, it is open to you. So you can go ahead and stand up and ask your questions. And my job here, and for the pastor who is tonight, we're here to help you to get those questions out and to make sure that things are done in a respectful way, because this is a community discussion, a question and answer session to clarify things. And that's the point of tonight's meeting. And with that, Mr. True, if you'll come on up and present to everybody here what you put together for them.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Kyle True with Prism Logistics. See some friends in the crowd. I am pleased to be here because I don't think anything someone does in America is beyond question. I think everyone can be questioned, and every activity can be questioned. And if you can't answer for why you're doing what you're doing, that might be an issue. So I very much appreciate people coming. I'd like to spend some time tonight. I won't go through the same presentation we did a couple of months ago. I'll be happy to handle anything, any topic anybody would like to discuss in the Q&A. But I want to talk a little bit more tonight about the economic impact that we anticipate seeing here. So the goals of the evening are to address any concerns that have come up with the gravel pit and with gravel pits in general, address any questions. Tonight I want to discuss the economic impacts for Natrona County specifically, and long-term what we all want to do, I think. I don't think anyone is involved here to make things worse. We are discussing different perspectives on what will make Natrona County better, and that's what we're here to do, so let's have that conversation. I think in Casper, as in Wyoming, we need to harvest what we need and, not but, and protect what we love. I think in a modern society, we have that ability. We have diesel engines, we have roads, we have modern mining practices where we can get what we need to live this modern life and protect what we love. I'm a firm believer in that. We can do this in an environmentally conscientious way. The DEQ has overseen some of the largest trona mines on the planet. The largest open pit coal mine on the planet is in this state. We used to have the largest Tonka trucks in the world. I think now Canada in their tar sands has some bigger trucks than we do. I'm sorry to have to say that. The uranium mines that were in the Shirley Basin were some of the largest, I think, on the planet. And our DEQ knows how to manage these things in an environmentally responsible way. How we do things is as important as what we do. We also need economic development. I don't think anyone argues with that. What we're discussing is how do we harness what we need and protect what we love to maintain the high standard of living that we have in this country, where candidly, I have cobalt somewhere in this phone. I don't know where it is in this phone. I know I need cobalt. I don't fully understand all the things I utilize to live the quality of life that I live. We use oil for things we may not realize, in plastic, in medicine. There's a lot of petroleum products in medicine, mining, etc. So it's good to stop and look at why we're doing what we're doing and to question that. I think it's appropriate in this time and this place to have this gravel pit because we need it to live the kind of life we do. So this is a quick overview of what I want to discuss tonight. I think we are at the right time and the right place for this gravel pit. I'm going to suggest why now is the right time and this is the right place. Secondly, I want to quickly review that some concerns have been brought up. They were dealt with much more detail in the previous talk. So I'll just quickly touch on air quality, water supply, road maintenance, and property values. And then I want to talk about the economic impact that this will have. 15 full-time jobs, millions of dollars in state revenue, etc. So jumping in, I want to say this is the right time and the right place. The state land that is intended for economic activity, we refer to as school sections. In 1869, prior to Wyoming becoming a state, the state of Wyoming received, or it wasn't a state, it was the territory of Wyoming. In the Organic Act of 1869, U.S. Congress set aside Section 16 and 36 of undeveloped or not yet patented, if no one had patented this land, and those were set aside for the territorial government or the state government. In the Wyoming Constitution, we had to, when we became a state, and by the way, a lot of representatives voted against Wyoming becoming a state. I need to research that. Who are these people and why did they not want us to become a state? In the Wyoming Constitution, when we were allowed into the United States of America, our Constitution accepted those state lands for the intention that Congress had given them to us, which was to fund our schools. We call those school sections. A lot of people don't know why we call them school sections. It's because the state of Wyoming has a mandate to encourage economic activity on those sections so that the state can earn royalties, and from those royalties and the economic activity on those sections, they can pay for our school system. That makes the where the right place. That is one of the reasons that the where is the right place. We are proposing a gravel pit in Section 36. Every Section 16 and every Section 36 in every township across the state that was not patented or deeded prior to statehood has been set aside to develop economic activity to fund our schools. We're doing what was intended before anyone built a house there, before anyone built a road there. This section was set aside for economic activity. So we are in the right place. In addition, this is the right time. There are 2 newly reactivated mines in the Casper area delivering gravel to the Casper gravel supply. One is south of the country club. You'll see it on a map later. It is laterally just as far south or just as high on the mountain face. Neither is on the mountain. You saw the video playing before. There's about a 4% grade there. There's about a 34% grade on the actual mountain. Where we're talking about mining, there's about a 4% grade. It's not actually mountainous. It is on a hillside leading up to the mountain. These new mines have been activated recently because I think industry is telling us the other sources are tapping out just a bit. We're having to activate new mines. Why would multiple companies go to the expense to activate new mines? Because we seem to be running low. We at Prism have thought this has been coming in Casper. So for the last couple of years, we've been looking around trying to find where to get gravel. Okay, discussing the state mandate to use this land, the Board of Land Commissioners is the entity charged with managing these state school sections to provide economic activity and to provide tax revenue for our school systems. The board is constitutionally charged with optimizing revenue from state trust lands to support public education and beneficiary institutions. Are a little list of other institutions. The Capitol building in Cheyenne gets some money, etc., from different sections. Section 36, where we are proposing the gravel pit, the school system gets the funding from that. but it concurrently must strive to protect, conserve, and maintain the lands so they may be used by future generations. And that's the mandate that the Wyoming DEQ has taken so seriously over the past, say, 50 years, to make sure that while a mining operation is going on, the Oil and Gas Commission would do an oil and gas development, but we're talking gravel. So we'll talk about the Wyoming DEQ. When a mining operation is going on, they monitor what's going on, make sure stormwater, air quality, et cetera, are maintained. And as that mine is abandoned or as that area is reclaimed, they go out there and spend 5 years making sure that after you say we've reclaimed it all and we're done, you don't get your bond back for a good 5 years to make sure that there's not too much water runoff, that the seed actually took. And if they're not happy with it, they have you come back out and do it again. I think our DEQ should be relatively proud of this. If you go to the Green River Basin, some of the best land down there is reclaimed trona mines. If you go to the Powder River Basin, you can tell where the good land is. The antelope congregate there because that's where the coal mines have been reclaimed. If you go to the Shirley Basin, there's really, well, that's ramping back up again. All of a sudden, there's new interest in uranium. We know where it is. In the Shirley Basin, the best hillsides, the best forage is where the uranium mines were, and now they've been reclaimed. And in the gravel industry, we have the same track record. We are much smaller operations. We don't do big 600-acre operations. Ours would maximize at about 30 acres. But nonetheless, when we come back in, we plant the right seeds at the right place, at the right time, with the right diversity. We're a little bit proud of the fact that industry practice, and I can't take credit for this, the industry has figured out how to plant a more durable, drought-resistant crop so that they'll endure better. So this is why we're in this section. One of the reasons is because this, before we became a state, before any of us were here, this land was set aside to fund our schools. But to be sure we can use this land in the future, reclamation is key. Okay, really quickly, I want to address some of the concerns. Air quality. In Casper, we're blessed to have good air quality. We're not even close to the levels of particulate matter in the air that begin to get DEQ or any of these organizations concerned with air quality. And we would be doing a limited operation. We think we're pretty happy about this. We have come up with a way to reduce the mining activity on this land by 60% to minimize our footprint and to significantly minimize the amount of dust that's put into the air. Now, we'll also have modern mining practices, which include a variety of things such as spraying your piles of dirt so that water keeps them from just getting brought up with the wind into the air, etc. But by reducing our activity by 60%, we will reduce our particulate emissions by significantly more than 60% because we're moving to another area, heavy industrial area, the crushing, which it really causes the colloidal gravel to be generated. Water supply. We do not anticipate an impact on water supply. The 15 acres where we are proposing the limited mining operation, I don't think is going to have any impact on anyone's water well, on anyone's water supply. We've looked at that. We've had geohydrologists look at it. On the other hand, we can't know, can we? I can't know everything about the future. When we make an action, we can't fully understand the impacts of our actions. So if we do impact someone's water supply, we are happy as a company if we realize and it's demonstrated that we've impacted their water supply to fix their water supply in a variety of ways. One of the encouraging things to me is in researching this area of the mountain, there are water supplies at 2 feet of depth. The Navaros have a well permitted to 2 feet, and at -1 foot, they encountered water. So there's a water supply at the surface. That's the only well in Section 36 is a 2-foot well down close to the Navaro's home. Then at about 300 feet, there's a prospective water zone. At 700 feet, there's a prospective water zone. And at 1,000 feet, there's a prospective water zone. And we would be happy to go in and develop a water supply for someone's home if we negatively impact their water supply. You need water to live. We in this country have enough tools and technology, and if there's enough economic activity in an area, we can get everyone water. Thirdly, road maintenance. We've talked to the county road and bridge. we would be happy to maintain Coates Road to their satisfaction during the life of our mining activities. Right now, we think that road, it's actually a pretty robust road. It was built with more gravel than you would normally use for a variety of reasons I won't get into. But as we've learned about that road, I think it's going to maintain itself quite well. Having said that, we will need it to maintain heavy haul trucks. So whatever quality it is now, it will only get better if we move in and begin this operation, because we'll need it to stay quality during wet times for a heavy haul truck, which is a higher order of construction necessary than for a pickup. Property values. You know, there are half a dozen gravel operations around Casper. A lot of people don't know how close they are to homes. There's a gravel operation on Robertson Road. It has about 400 homes within a half a mile downwind of that gravel operation. And those homes are valued like other homes on the river, $800,000, $1 million. They're selling new lots, they're building new homes. If you go to Oregon Trail, the most expensive homes in Oregon Trail are closest to the gravel operation. I'm not going to assert that by putting in a gravel operation, I will increase someone's property value. What I'm saying is they sure seem to be independent. They're probably valued based on square footage, size of the lot, desirability of location, which doesn't appear to be impacted. We could get into more of that later. So I really want to talk about the economic impact that we're going to have. There are 11 seats in a line in each of these rows. If you can envision an entire row being filled and 4 more seats in the row behind, those are the people who don't have a job today that will have a job if this goes through. We'll have about 5 heavy equipment operators. We're going to have a crushing plant team. We're going to have sales, accounting, regulatory compliance, and we're going to have truck drivers. None of this moves on air. None of this moves on barges. All this moves through trucks. So we will create about 15 full-time jobs by simply putting in a 15-acre limited mining operation on our 3,000 acres of leasehold that we have in this area. We don't intend to use all 3,000. I don't think they're all prospective. But before we'd done the exploration, we didn't know what would be prospective. So as is common in exploration, you lease much more than you think is necessary, and then you go explore and find out what you need. We think there are about 320 acres in the 640-acre state school section at the south end of Coates Road that are prospective for gravel operations. We are applying for a 15-acre limited mining operation, and if that goes well, we anticipate asking for a large mine operation, applying for a large mine operation. But at no time do we ever anticipate more than a 30-acre disturbance, because we think we can go in and keep at 30 acres a disturbance and then haul out what's necessary from there and then reclaim behind ourselves and move that slowly around that 320-acre spacing. So all that to say, if we're engaged in 30 acres of disturbance on a 640-acre section, we're talking about less than 5% of that school section providing 15 good full-time jobs, and the other 95% is untouched. Let me say that again. 5% of the school section could provide a high school kid the opportunity to live here and raise his family here rather than having to leave and find a job somewhere else, which we run across so commonly, or these oil field guys that are going up to the Powder, but pretty soon they have to do a stint in North Dakota, and then they have to go to Utah for a while. If they could get a heavy equipment operator job and stay home with their family more often, that's what we're talking about. That small, I'm going to just refer to the 15-acre limited mining operation, would provide millions of dollars in state school section royalties to fund Natrona County schools and really statewide schools. We have some really nice new schools in this state, in this county, in the state, but in this county, and our county maybe could provide some economic activity to pay for those things. Prism will maintain Coates Road so the Natrona County does not have to maintain that county road. That would reduce county expenditures for possibly decades, and then the county would have that money to spend on a senior center. They could spend it on a lot of different things, whatever the priorities of the county are. We will generate millions of dollars in sales taxes in fuel tax alone. We will generate millions of dollars in fuel tax. With that, the county could reduce our property taxes. I got to admit, I would enjoy that. I have taxes I like to pay and I have taxes I don't like to pay. My favorite tax to pay is a royalty because I'm using government property to generate economic activity, and for the privilege to use their property, I sign a lease and I pay them a royalty. I think that's the best tax anyone can pay. My least favorite tax to pay is property tax. I thought I owned that home. I've been living in that home for 20, 30 years and I'm still paying rent. I mean, property taxes on that home, that drives me crazy. I would love to see more economic activity in this county so we could eliminate property taxes and have royalties, and severance taxes are my favorite to pay. After that would be sales tax, because at least I'm choosing when I pay the sales tax because I go and purchase something. We are talking about generating more royalties for our state, which I think is the best tax to pay. So right now we see around, and we hear in the headlines, the city of Casper is looking for a 6th cent because they have more priorities, more spending they want to do. We've had a 5th cent. We've voted on a 6th cent, and our community has rarely liked it. I would love to give the city more sales taxes so they don't have to go for a 6th cent. And we, through economic activity, could fill their coffers and they could fix the roads and fix the aquatic center and take care of Hogadon and all the things they want to do. Natrona County is talking about where to find funds for their senior center. And I don't even want to bring up the issue of the hospital. We have healthcare issues in this city and in this county that are much bigger than any gravel pit that we have. Property taxes are a concern for everyone, and we think the economic impact we could have through economic activity could help that. I think that multiple use is a core value that anybody in Wyoming just almost has to appreciate. You know, the government owns 2/3 of the surface area of our state. No, it's half, just over half the surface area and 2/3 of the mineral rights. In Natrona County, the government owns 55% of the surface and private individuals only own 45% of the surface of Natrona County. We have to have economic activity on state lands, public lands, BLM lands, or we're not going to be able to have jobs here and we'll become a retirement community. So I'm so glad we're here to discuss what our future could be, the right use for public lands. I've told you why I think this is the right place and this is the right time, but let's talk about it. I think hunting, biking, grazing, hiking, gravel extraction. Okay, I like the idea of a polo field. Boy, have I caught heat on that one. We could put in another pond up there. If we can replace the very shallow surface water supply that some of the people there use with a deeper well, maybe we could use that surface water for something else and people could have other benefits. I don't know. That's about the future. So let's have a discussion. I appreciate everyone coming. I appreciate the respectful conversation. No one's above question. Let's discuss the best way to develop our economy and manage this land.
And before we get on to the questions here, is there anybody here from the Casper Mountain Preservation Society? Because you do have an opportunity to get up and say a few words before we get you. Yes, sir. Would you like to come up and come on?
Come speak?
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely, we'll give you the form. This is part of what we're trying to do here is have this conversation. So thank you for coming up. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my name's Chris Navaro. I live on at the end of Squaw Creek. He's the one talking about the shallow well we have. And, some of the CMAP people didn't want to come, but I said, we got to come and ask some tough questions, and that's why I'm here tonight. And one of the tough questions I need to ask is, I understand, Kyle, you need to file for a CUP, a conditional use permit, and that you stated in the next 3 to 6 months that you're going to perform that duty, correct? I'm not making a. I have questions, and you said that the CMPA wasn't here, and I'm a member of the CMAPA, and there's several other people here that are.
Okay, so I think you were asking a procedural question about a conditional use permit.
Correct. I believe you stated that you plan on filing it with the county commissioners in the next 3 to 6 months, correct?
Yes, sooner. It'll be
Sooner.
on the short end of that.
And then that's when it's going to go to a vote and you decide. And that's when I know I talked to you before, but you made a statement that if you were denied the CUP, that you would look for gravel elsewhere.
Oh, I've already been looking for gravel elsewhere.
So if you're denied the CUP, then this will be the end of it for us, as having to fight you on putting the gravel pit up there.
Not at all.
Not at all. So that word didn't really mean nothing that you said.
Now, okay, let's back away from that. Chris, you're a very intelligent man, and I don't want to get into a quick back and forth. Sometimes they can ratchet up, and we'll end up saying things emotionally that we maybe didn't intend to say. So let me back up and say, I believe that my understanding of the law in this area is this is a state school section that was intended for this use. Having said that, the county has done zoning over the entire county, and there's nowhere in Natrona County, 0 acres, where you can put a gravel pit without a conditional use permit. So we're going to go forward and seek a conditional use permit. If the conditional use permit is denied, I'll be interested to see why it's denied and how it's denied. And it brings up a really fascinating question about who decides what use the land should be put to. So who owns this land? The state. So who decides how it'll be used? Well, the Constitution assigns that to the state land board. But if the county commissioners can tell the state land board what they can do, that'll become a further question, and that's out of my hands. That might bounce back to the legislature. This has come up in Teton County. It's coming up here. It's come up with wind farms. It's come up in Bondurant area. So there could be other things moving, and I can't predict after that happens, this is what I'll do. I'm not going to operate illegally anywhere. I think I need a conditional use permit to move forward here. But I don't know that if one time a conditional use permit is denied, that's the end of the question forever.
I didn't say forever.
Okay.
I'm just wanting to know. I mean, we have, we've gotten over almost 15,000 people to sign our petition. I know you kind of made some light of it, saying that people called you and didn't even know what they were signing, but I think most of the people in Casper, Wyoming, know that they're signing a petition that they don't want a gravel pit up on that mountain. And
that might be true. I don't think we're on the mountain. If you look at the video behind you, that's not the mountain. The
it ain't a very far walk to the mountain.
It's a couple miles walk to the mountain.
I've ridden horses up there. It's not that far.
Okay, it's not that far, but to say that you're on the mountain or a mile away from the mountain, aren't those two different statements? And
all
so
right,
that's the
well,
question.
let's put it this way. You're going to build it right there at the end of the school section of Squaw Creek.
Okay.
And there's a lot of homes that are right by it.
What do you mean by right by it? Over a half a mile away, there are 1,000 homes in Casper within a half a mile downwind of current gravel operations, which those gravel operations don't do 40% of a normal operation.
I'm not arguing
we're
about
going to.
any other gravel pits. I'm telling you, the community as a whole does not want this located gravel pit there. And you, for some reason, you kind of like think that we're having people sign all these petitions like it doesn't mean anything, but it does mean something. The community has spoken that they don't want this gravel pit there. There's a few individuals like yourself who are going to benefit from this, and that's why you're driving this. But the majority of Casper doesn't want the pit.
I disagree. Great question. That is an awesome statement. I think you are a very creative artist, and I have called you and said, Chris, why do you have a coal mine on your site showing that you don't want a gravel pit in the area, but you have a coal mine? You have the largest copper mine in North America on your site. You have had a quarry 10 times the size of anything we've ever envisioned up on your site when we're looking at a gravel pit. So you have misrepresented by orders of magnitude, and people have said, oh my gosh, if what Chris is saying is right, where can I sign? And what I've said is, great, let's have that conversation. It turns out 5% of one section will not destroy the value of the mountain. And I've demonstrated that around town, other gravel operations do not hurt home values. We have demonstrated that trucks traveling 20 miles an hour do not ruin roads. And in fact, we will reduce county expenditures on those roads. So I do think that there has been a great deal of misinformation. And I've told you that I thought that, and you've continued with what I consider to be misinformation. And I've told you why I think it's inapplicable. And people have signed something based on misinformation. So I wanted to have this conversation and others to let people know 30 acres is not, we have a 3,000 acre lease. We're looking to use 1% of it. That will not destroy the mountain. If you look at this 640 acre section, we'll use 5% of it. That will not destroy the mountain. We need multiple use in this state.
Well, okay. Prism Logistics, how many gravel pits do you guys have now in the state? 29, something like that?
Closer to 20.
20? And you told me the reason that you wanted to put a gravel pit there, the main reason was your transportation costs. Isn't that correct?
Sure, there's an element of truth to that. The Casper area needs more supply. That's why new pits have gone in the Casper area.
And you said that the main reason that you want to put it there is because it would cut your transportation costs.
Well, yes, and that's where the resource is. It is difficult to find actual granite rock, especially the larger rock that is present there, anywhere around the mountain. If you go to the back side of the mountain, you go to the west side of the mountain, you go to the east side of the mountain, there's a lot of sandstone. It is stone, but if you grab a hold of it and you begin to use it for construction, it'll crush down into sand. It's not really a granite. It's not a gravel. It's a sand. And it's a challenge in this county. We have a lot of clay in this county. We have a lot of sand. We don't have a lot of stone. It's very challenging to find. In addition, when you find it, it needs to be on land intended for economic development. Check. It needs to be near a county road because, you know, how difficult it is to condemn your way out or build a road through people's homes. So we have a county road. Check. So this is a great location to supply the needs of Casper.
Yeah, and all that, but you're not listening to the people of Casper. You keep sugarcoating everything this way and that, saying that the people actually don't want this gravel pit. And you keep trying to turn everybody's mind. I told you you were misrepresenting this thing because you didn't understand the desire and the passion that people have about fighting this. Of all your gravel pits, have you had a fight like this in any of them? Probably not.
Mr. True, my name is Bruce Lawson. I testified at the State Board Land Commission meeting along with you and Mr. Fair. And at that meeting, you dodged and danced around every question the State Board of Land Commissioners had for you. So I got some questions for you tonight. So you wouldn't be jumping into this endeavor if you didn't already know the economics of it. True?
We do scoping economics before we move forward.
So when I reviewed your LMO application, your original application in section 2, you indicated you were going to mine to a depth of 25 feet. Is that correct?
If that's
Is
what
that
it says on
correct?
the LMO, that sounds reasonable.
Is that correct? I've got a copy of it here. Would you like to look at it?
No, but that sounds reasonable.
Okay.
I'll accept
Okay.
that.
Okay. So at 15 acres to a depth of 25 feet, how many cubic yards of material are you going to remove?
Do you want me to do the math?
I've already done it.
Okay, go ahead.
605,000 cubic yards.
Okay.
Okay. How much of that is reject? What percent of that's going to be rejected?
Significant percent, probably half.
Probably half. Okay. 605,000 cubic yards. How are you planning on mining that? What's your heavy equipment fleet? What's your mining technique? Track hoes, scrapers, front end loaders, cats? What?
Yes.
Tell me.
Track hose. You just said it. Why do you want me to
you
repeat
tell
that?
me what your fleet of heavy equipment will be to extract 605,000 cubic yards from a 15-acre LMO.
We will start with track hose. As we need them, we will have loaders. We will have a gravel screen and a dirt screen so that the dirt can be left there. Then we will haul virtually every gravel product away and process it somewhere else. So that's our
So you're
plan.
not going to be crushing any material on site?
I welcome, yes, that is our
Yes
current
or no?
plan.
Yes or no?
That is our current plan, to not do any crushing here. I said that in
Okay.
May.
So
I'm
no
saying it
no
again
crushing.
tonight.
No
That's
crushing.
my plan. That's
Okay.
my hope.
How do you plan on powering your screening equipment? Will this be mobile diesel generator sets?
It could be. It also could be, and for the LMO early on, it's likely to be. There's a power supply going through there.
Okay.
And so we would be looking at if it's reasonable to tap into that electric power supply as well.
What are your hours of operation?
I don't have a conditional use permit yet, but it is our practice to
You have-
request 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
How many days a week?
Well, we request 7. We rarely operate 7.
Okay, good.
But occasionally you'll have a customer
How many
that's really in a
trucks?
hurry.
How many trucks will it require? And are you going to run 25-ton or 35-ton belly dump trucks on Coates Road?
This came up, this is the second time this has come up. Thank you for bringing this up. We don't anticipate using belly dumps. We think we'll use side dumps. It's a little less.
Okay.
Little
Side
less,
dumps. What's the
and
capacity?
you can get about 40 tons out of those.
And what do those trucks weigh, total weight, loaded?
More than 40 tons. Because if you got 40 tons of load, then you're going to have more than 40 tons of total weight.
So at 605, if you extract 605,000 cubic yards, let's just,
Remember, we're going to cut that in half because about half of it would stay in place.
half of it's going to be rejects. So, okay, we're going to look at 300,000. And for the sake of keeping things simple here, let's just assume a cubic yard is a ton, okay? So we're looking at 300,000 tons of material coming off the LMO, correct?
Okay.
Okay. And that'll be hauled by a 40-ton side dump truck.
Okay.
And what's that truck weigh in total, did you say?
More than 40 tons.
More than, oh boy, that makes sense. The truck hauls 40 tons and it's going to weigh more than 40 tons. So
Right.
what's the total weight of the truck, loaded truck? Probably around 100,000. Okay. How many trucks will it take you to remove 300,000 tons?
We think we might run 5 trucks a day. We think we might have.
But in total,
5 trucks.
How many trucks? I mean, if you
Will
got
you
a
let
little
me pull up my
you got your
calculator?
computer, your 300,000 tons divided by 40 is, how many thousand trucks is that?
That's 7,500 loads. It's not trucks, it's loads. A truck can do more than one load in a day, but it's 7,500 loads.
How many trucks will that be running up and down?
7,500 loads. We anticipate maybe
How
5.
how many trucks? Not loads, but how many
We anticipate
trucks
about 5 trucks,
in total?
right?
No, in total. To
Right.
remove.
5 trucks, 7,500 loads. I don't understand.
Yeah. So no, the question I'm asking is, you're going to extract 300,000 tons.
Okay.
How many trucks in total will be required to haul 300,000 tons?
About 5. We don't haul them out. We
Five
don't haul
trucks.
them out in
Five trucks will haul 300,000 tons.
Not in one day, but you bet. One truck will haul 7,500 tons.
In total. In total.
Sure.
In total, how many trucks?
I think we'll run about 5 trucks. I'm not sure if we can. Okay. What's your point? Is there something that's concerning you that I'm missing?
Yeah, it is. The
What's
fact that, I'm 900 feet from Coates Road. I think there's probably have you ever driven up and down Coates Road to your location? Do you
Yes,
have blinders on when you go up there? Because have you ever looked at the homes that are located directly on Coates Road? I went to high school. I grew up here, Mr. True. My dad was a distinguished petroleum geologist. He almost went to work for Mr. Milliken, and I'm glad he didn't. But anyhow, a good friend, Jerry and Esther Anderson, I rodeoed with their Esther's brother, Larry, is a county commissioner in Fremont County. They live directly on Coates Road. Their home is the front door is probably 150 feet from Coates Road. And thousands of trucks are going to go by their house in the course of the development of your Elmo. Thousands. I calculated.
I think we calculated 7,500
let me
loads.
tell you, let me show you what I figured out here. If we're going to run, if you were going to run, and this is based on 605,000 cubic yards, but let's say we cut that in half to 300,000. Based on my calculation at 600,000, that'd be 54,000 truckloads. That'd be 54,000 trucks for 600,000 cubic yards. So cut that in half. That's going to be 27,000 trucks going down Coates Road. One way.
But we just did the math together and we came up with
And round
7,500
trip,
loads.
you've got to double that.
We just
you
did the
gotta-
math together and we came to 7,500 loads. So I'm not sure how you went from 7,500 to 54,000. But There will be economic activity there.
Yep.
There will be
Well,
trucks driving by.
we've got 8,700, almost 9,000 signatures, people throughout the county, probably the state, that are opposed to your project. What don't you get? The fact that we don't want your LMO on the state leases on the face of Casper. Why don't you understand that? So let me ask you.
Hold on. You just asked me a question. May I respond to your question?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. I do understand that a great deal of misinformation has gone out, largely by Mr. Navaro, but also others. And there are many questions where people don't understand how oil is produced. People don't understand how gravel is produced. That's okay. Industry needs to make its case to people and say, look, when these trucks go down a road, you're right. There will be trucks on this road at 20 miles an hour. And the company, there will not only be trucks hauling the gravel, there'll be the trucks maintaining the road. We're going to send snow removal trucks up that road.
Are you going to pave the road?
Graders.
Are you going to pave the road, the entire length of the road?
I don't know. I'm not going to do anything the county's not happy with. I've spoken to County Road and Bridge, and we've offered to maintain that road to their satisfaction during the life of our mining operation.
How do you address the mental health and the physical health of the people that live directly on Coates Road that are going to have thousands of gravel trucks going by their house in the course of your operation? I don't know how many years it will take you to haul 300,000 cubic yards, but you're probably not going to do it in a year, are you?
I don't anticipate that.
How long do you
I
anticipate?
think it'll be longer,
How
three
much?
to 7 years.
3 to
It'll take some
7
time.
years. So there'll be, just like what's going on that McMurray pit coming out of Carol Swinney's on Country Club, there'll be hundreds of trucks a day coming down Coates Road, right?
I don't think
Let's
that's.
say scores.
I don't think
scores.
that's reasonable.
You don't think that's
I
reasonable?
don't think you could get
Okay.
5 trucks at 20 round trips.
You know,
truck. I don't
and
think
those
that's
trucks,
possible.
you're going 20 miles an hour. You know, most of those trucks I've observed, that are hauling for Art Boatwright, none of those trucks have mufflers. They all have straight stacks on them. They're loud, they're noisy. They use their Jake brakes. It's going to be a mess. But let me get on to this. Where's the water coming from to control the dust on Coates Road, as well as the dust from your gravel mining operation? Where will the water come from to water the road? And I spent 35 years in surface mining, Kyle, permitting and developing and reclaiming and regulatory compliance. LMOs, small mines, primarily large mining operations all over Wyoming. So I know a thing or two about what I'm talking about here. So the primary form of dust control for your type of operation is going to be water. Unless you're going to put mag chloride on Coates Road, which is going to destroy everybody's vehicles. But anyhow, where is the water going to come from to control the dust on Coates Road, as well as your active mining operation on the LMO?
Do you know how Coates Road is currently maintained?
That wasn't my question.
Do you know
My
what the
question
county
is,
practices
where
are?
does the water come from?
I understand it. You asked me a variety of questions that you didn't let me answer.
Sure, okay.
And you said you're an amazing expert on these topics.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, have you been up Coates Road?
I think I
Do
have.
you know how it's maintained?
It's maintained by the county.
No, not who, how.
They blade the road
And every year they add mag chloride.
not on the entire road.
Every year. They
Not
make
on the
me
entire
put mag
road.
chloride.
On a portion
So
of the
if we
road.
put mag chloride on the road, it would not be a change to current practices. I'm like you, I don't like mag chloride much. So I try to find other ways. There are new technologies in dust suppression that are out there, and we try to look into them. Just like everything in life, they need to be tailor-made to the specific location. So until we get a conditional use permit and we get out there and start moving, we really won't test in the detailed way we need to find out what's the right mixture for dust suppression. But you're absolutely right. Water is going to be probably our main usage. And where that comes from, I don't know yet.
You don't know where the water is going to come from
I don't.
You don't? You don't? Are you going to buy it from the city?
We might.
You might?
Yeah,
Are you
it's available.
Are you going to, if you encounter groundwater on your LMO, when you mine it to 25 feet deep, will you use that water for dust suppression?
We might. Do you know whose water that is?
So,
Does anyone own water in this state, or does the state own the water? I'm not sure anyone here is enough of a water lawyer to tell us whose water that all is. I can tell you, you're right. Common practices are water is the main way to handle dust suppression and dust control. And we'll be doing that.
Okay.
And we'll get
Okay.
water from somewhere.
Okay.
It'll
I
be
understand
legal,
that.
we'll pay for it. And I'm not enough of an attorney to sit here and tell you whose water is what, where, and when. If we're out on state land doing something, developing state land, does the state have the first right on state water? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not a water attorney.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll find out
So,
when we get there. We're
one
not
other
going to break the
question.
law. We're going to follow all
Sure.
the laws, all the rules, all the
But you haven't
regulations.
followed the rules so far.
We have followed them.
No, you haven't. You know,
Yes, we have.
So
Please bring that up. Bring the accusation.
I reviewed.
I'll respond to
I
it.
reviewed your permit to explore by dozing.
Okay.
It was deficient in quite a number of areas. There was a number of required information for that application that you did not provide. Are you aware of that?
I'd love to hear it. You're
Are
an
you-
expert. You're an expert in this area.
I am an expert.
And I'd love to know what I don't know. Go ahead. Help me
Ask
out.
Carolyn. Carolyn actually.
Now, wait a minute. Are you going to tell me, or are you going to throw out accusations
No.
without backing them up?
No.
Help me out,
Yeah,
Bruce.
let me help you out here, Kyle.
And you could call
So-
any time.
And on Appendix E, on your application
Okay.
to explore, application for license to explore for minerals by dozing, non-coal, Chapter 5 Rules and Regulations. Here's your application right here. Would you like to look at it? No? Okay, under that application, under Appendix E, you were required to illustrate dwellings and utilities on the map that was required under Appendix C. That was not done.
I think
You
we
were
did. I
also
think we did.
you were also required to display surface drainage. There were no contour lines displayed on the map that was included with your application.
Yeah, there
No
were.
contour lines.
Yes, there were. You must have.
No,
You must have
no.
grabbed the wrong map.
There were
because
no
we did do
blue
those
line
things.
drainages displayed on that map. So that's also a requirement. You failed to illustrate any springs or impoundments under Appendix E of your application. So those are a few of the deficiencies. And the DEQ approved that application with those deficiencies.
I don't think those were deficient. We had a contour map. We had a topo map. I remember specifically going out and getting the power lines. We called one call. There are no natural gas lines, if memory serves, in that area. But no, we did include those. And I'd be happy to talk with you afterwards about that.
Sure.
At the office
You
where I've
want
got my
to, you might
files.
want to.
I don't have.
You might want to discuss that with Chris Fair. So, but I did review your application, and I got that from DEQ under an information request.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Good. Hey, nobody's above being questioned, Bruce.
So,
And I do think we did submit all those things because I remember specifically asking some of those questions and finding out we didn't need water lines, we didn't need natural gas lines, there was no buried power. There is a power line, above surface power
Sure.
line. We put that on our map.
Okay.
I remember those specifically. So you might
So-
have grabbed a.
would you mind telling me, as well as the other people that are in the room, is you indicated in a letter that I believe you sent to the county commissioner some months
Okay.
ago that, one part of your reclamation plan might be a 60-acre pond. Do you recall that?
Yes.
How do you develop a 60-acre pond under a 15-acre LMO? When you're limited to 15 acres on a LMO, how do you develop a 60-acre pond?
Okay. That's a great question. This is
Yeah,
a really
yeah.
confusing part of the entire mining application.
Uh-huh.
In Wyoming, it's generally recognized that a 15-acre disturbance doesn't need to be studied very much. So we give a limited mining operation very quickly. It's almost just procedural because it's not going to affect the water, it's not going to affect air quality, et cetera. And that's been the practice of DEQ. While we're doing that, I mentioned earlier today, while we're developing that limited mining operation, which will take years, we'll go in and do hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of studies for a large mine application. Our large mine application, we anticipate in Section 36 will cover over 300 acres of gravel resource that's in Section 36. But we never anticipate having more than 30 acres opened because we just don't need to. Our typical operation is we'll keep 15 to 20 acres open. So I've said 30 publicly, but we really plan on keeping 15 to 20 acres open because we can get the resource we need out of a smaller footprint. But once that footprint has been exhausted, let's say it takes 3 years to get a 30-acre area exhausted, then we'll reclaim that while we move that 30-acre disturbance a little bit west, a little bit east, a little bit south, whatever it happens to be, all within the 320-acre resource that's there. So we'll be rehabbing and reclaiming that. So we will touch, we anticipate, a full 300 acres. We can rehabilitate that any way we'd like. We could go in and put in a pond. We could not put in a pond. We could put in hills. We could put in a dirt bike area. And that's speculative, and that's for discussion. Once the mine is permitted, then the community gets together and let's discuss it. We're going to have heavy equipment in there moving all this dirt around. We can kind of contour it however we'd like with nominal additional expense. So that is a concept for later. And I think I said in that letter to the county commissioners, that would depend on what the state water engineer wants to do and Game and Fish, what they want to do, what the state hydrologist says can be supported. I don't know how much water supply is really supported because every acre you have open of a pond is going to have a certain amount of annual evaporation that you'll just lose. So how much of a pond could be supported by the runoff that's there? I don't know. Let's find out and let's leave it better than we found it.
Well, I want to thank you. Thank you for that response, that admitting that your ultimate goal is a large mine operation.
Sure.
So
never more than 30 acres, but that's
still
technically called a large mine.
But
yes,
yeah, and I permitted dozens of large mine operations, large amendment areas throughout Wyoming. So I know the process. I know how it works. I've dealt with DEQ, land quality, for 35 years. I'm an expert. So let me ask you this. With all the concerns that have been expressed by the homeowners that live in the area, that live adjacent or near your proposed operation, and all their concerns, particularly for your impacts to groundwater quality, if your ultimate goal is a large mine operation, why don't you respect those people, forego the LMO, and permit this as a large mine operation at the get-go? That way, you have to do all of the required baseline environmental analysis required under Article 4 of the Environmental Quality Act, those things that are exempted by the LMO. So you would, instead of the homeowners that live in the adjacent to where you're going to mine, so they're now going to have to hire a hydrologist. They're hiring hydrologists now to try to determine how your activities will affect their groundwater sources. If you went ahead and permitted this now under a large mine application, you'd be responsible for all of those. You'd be responsible for a detailed, comprehensive analysis of the surface water hydrology, the groundwater hydrology, the soils, the overburden, the climatology, the archaeology, cultural resources, soils, vegetation, wildlife. Why not just do that now? Why not put the burden on Prism Logistics to determine your impact instead of having these homeowners pay for it out of their pocket because you're exempted from doing those things under an LMO application? So if your intent is a large mine operation, do it now. Forget the LMO and do these people, these homeowners, these residents that live there the favor. You owe it to them. Oh, go ahead. You laugh at me. You owe it to those people to do those baseline environmental analysis under a large mine permit instead of skirting the process and avoiding all of that under an LMO. So if that's your true intent is a large mine permit, why are you going with an LMO to begin with? Why?
That's a great question. And I chuckled because several times I thought I was going to get a chance to answer, and you'd run right through and say the question again. That's okay. So I think you stated several times why, if our intent is long-term to have a large mine operation, why put in an LMO now and then walk before you run? Why do an LMO? Why not just do the full mine operation?
Absolutely. Do it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because in the state of Wyoming, it is generally recognized and accepted that a 15-acre disturbance is simply not going to have the negative impacts that you're concerned about. The area residents who are concerned about these things are concerned, and their questions. We've tried to address those questions. We've listened for every question we can come up with and every concern that they can voice, and we've tried to analyze them and ask, are they reasonable and applicable concerns, or is it an unreasonable concern? When I was young, I was afraid sharks were going to get me in Alcova. Was it a reasonable concern? No, it wasn't.
All right.
And it turns out a 15-acre LMO is just not likely to have the detrimental impacts that have been voiced and the area residents are clearly concerned about. And that's why we're here to show video of the area where we're going and to discuss modern mining practices and to let people know. So I don't think it's reasonable to set aside DEQ practice and regulation and law and to forge our own way.
Wow. Thank you.
My name is Calvin Decker. I don't know if anybody in here really knows me. I've been in industry longer than that gentleman. I work for Knife River, Casper Concrete, JTL, started in 1968. Before that, my father was in the crushing and concrete business in the early 60s. So I've got a background of this for a long, long time. I was plant manager at Knife River, and one of the things that I really wanted to bring up is that the misinformation that the people have that where they're signing those petitions. I've been in 3 or 4 places where they've talked about things that aren't really true in the gravel industry and not true for that type of material. I've mined regular gravel. I've dredged. I've shot rock. So I've got a lot of basis that I can tell this. But when somebody has a petition to sign and they've been coached very well, you know, they've talked about, well, silica is in hard rock. Silica is not in granite, you know, so they all these things that they've come up with to try to get these people to sign these petitions. And it's very unfair. You know, I was also told you can get gravel anywhere. Baloney. You know, I've searched for gravel my whole life, you know. Our first gravel pit for my father was in Paradise Valley not on Sunflower, but oh shoot. Can't think of it. But anyway, and today you can't tell that gravel pit was there, although there's houses where the gravel pit was, and if we wouldn't have taken the gravel out, it'd cost a ton of money to get that area ready. Also, we had a gravel mine that was down on the end of, boy, I live out there, I can't even think. But anyway, we had another gravel pit, Burgess Sand and Gravel, that I helped develop, and that was on the corner right there where you turn the corner off of Paradise Drive. And so, you know, mining is not a bad thing. Mining is a useful thing. But, you know, if the people that are getting these petitions signed have been really very well coached to give out misinformation, it's easy for those people to sign because they think it's a terrible thing, but they're not getting the whole story. So maybe we should put out a petition saying we want a gravel pit because this is the way it is, multiple use. Well, you know, you wouldn't have the people that signed that petition if they really knew the facts. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about the gravel industry. I've got a world of information that's stuck in this old 77-year-old mind. You know, so I've worked for Mr. Long. He was a great guy. I've worked for all the Long family. And then when we got bought out by MDU, you know, it's great. I was plant manager there all but 10 years. I worked heavy equipment. And after that, I was plant manager for the whole time. We got bought materials from True, you know, and it's just one of those facts. You got to have this resource to do what people want to do, build homes, build highways, paving, you know, all that. And I think it's unfair that the billboard that they put out exiting Paradise Valley showing this terrible looking mess. And that's not going to be. You know, I think that there's too much negative and not enough positive about this mining permit. I hope you get it. And if I can help you, I very will.
Thank you. You are one of the reasons I wanted to come and have an evening like this, is because I feel that the gravel industry is somewhat maligned and misunderstood, and a small, respectful 30-acre disturbance can create such economic activity. You work for Knife River. Knife River has a 350, I think, acre operation going on in Casper right now. They're not hurting anybody. It's professionally run. It creates a great deal of economic activity. They've been all over. Edna's Kimball Wilkins was a gravel pit. The McKenzie Dog Park was once a gravel pit. That's why I got to looking for, when we're done with this, how can we improve that land? We're going to have a lot of heavy equipment up there. We're going to create some disturbance so we could recontour that any way we'd like. And I think we can leave it better than we found it.
Got a lot of questions from the audience back here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dale. Hey, it might have been said, but how thick of a seam is there that you plan on mining?
We don't know for sure. We went down 14 feet with our backhoe, and we never ran out of gravel in a significant part. Let me say, in the south half of Section 36, we always found it down to 14 feet. We've found drilling records down to 27 feet where they said gravel was down to 27 feet. We've decided to move forward, anticipating it will be somewhere between 14 and 25 feet of total depth in Section 36. Now, we also drilled some test holes in Section 35 and 34. Those are not as attractive a product, but those also have gravel. And so when we're done in Section 36, we could move some operation over to 35 as well. And again, those went, you know, the 14 feet that we tested with our backhoe.
Okay, because I know like at the Powder River, there's a 100-foot seam of coal, and they lower the land basically 100 feet. It's a moving hole. They're always
Right.
putting the topsoil back. A second question is, if this does not go through, where do you have to go for gravel closest to Casper? How far is that away?
Great question. I'm not really sure. We've looked, you know, everywhere within, say, 30 miles of Casper, because if we can round trip and get multiple loads in a day, that really helps your economics. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to find. I'm sorry to say we may end up in, you know, south of Douglas, there are some quarries. There's actually some limestone that comes out there. The Madison Formation comes out there. My dad used to have one there, and there we did do blasting. Here we don't anticipate. You mentioned blasting, you mentioned a drag. We're not anticipating any of that here, but the industry has a lot of tools in its toolbox. Here we think we'll just use backhoes. And I think if we don't find it here, in answer to your question, I think you're going to be over south of Douglas, because we've looked all along by Glenrock, that significant one, the one that was on the mountain face, we could all see it for decades. I don't think we're going to go back there. When you look at most of Casper Mountain, you'll find it sandstone.
Yeah, let's go on to the questions. We have a couple in the back here. This gentleman.
You had mentioned that it could be statements or questions. I've come to every meeting so far, Mr. True. I talked to you personally. At this point, this will be the last meeting I come to, because there may be misinformation on one side, but there is misinformation on your side. I can't sit and listen. I live off Coates Road.
Okay.
My kids' tower that they play on, I have 2 young girls. is within 100 feet of Coach Road. And to say that my concerns are not correct and unfair, and you've shared that several times, you don't anticipate doing things, which to me means you'll do possibly anticipate is that's not worth anything, to be completely honest. If it's in writing, fine. So at this point, I can't continue to come to the meetings and be treated like I'm ignorant to the fact that those trucks will drive 100 feet past my kids every day. And to act like I am not legit in my concerns is offending. Is it a coal mine? No. I will not disagree that there's misinformation, but there also is on your side as well. I am absolutely 100% going to be affected by this mine. I will have to consider whether or not I want to stay living where I'm living, because I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, and now there'll be a mining operation behind me. And there is safety concerns. You have said there is no safety concerns. I don't understand how you can stand in front of me. I may not be educated like you. I may not understand the gravel industry, but I can tell you I understand what it takes to get it out. And that is trucks, and that is noise, that is dust. I sit on my property and I listen to the trucks that go by. I listen to empty horse trailers occasionally, and the noise is significant. Now you're trying to tell me that my concerns are, every meeting I've gone to, I've heard you say my concerns are not more or less valid. And I think that's unfair. I live out there. And so the people signing the petitions may be signing it because they've got some misinformation. Some of them are signing it because they recognize the effect it will have on me. I appreciate all of your slideshows. I appreciate that it'll bring. No one is against jobs. But why are those 12 people's lives worth more than mine on Coach Road? And so there are other places. There's other places to create these jobs. You're a great businessman. You've created lots of jobs. You keep throwing that out there, and that's true, but that's like you're trying to manipulate the fact that you could create those 12 jobs somewhere else too. And ultimately, everything anyone is saying is they just don't want it there, because it absolutely will affect me. Will it affect me to the significance that people are putting out? No, I've given you that. I've told you that personally. But for you to stand in front of me and continue to say it won't affect me, I can't listen to anymore. I have tried. I've tried to visit with you personally. I've tried to come to these meetings, but I am done being treated like I am not smart enough to realize that that will affect me and my family. And I don't have the privilege to be able to move. I bought that place 17 years ago. I can't afford to go and buy another place. So I'm going to have to live with it if I want to have a little bit of space for me and my kids. I don't have the luxury to move somewhere else. I just don't. We looked and I can't afford to. So I will have to learn to live with it, and to act like I won't is insulting, and I can't listen to it anymore.
Appreciate you. Wait, don't leave. If you're going to say that, let me respond. Let me respond to that.
You say the same thing over and over and over, and I can't listen to it anymore. I may not be as educated as you.
That's not the issue, and you know it. Now, that's not fair, and you know it.
Kids' place that is 100 feet from that road.
And
I will not listen to you continue to tell me that it won't affect me and my family. And that is why people are signing that petition, not because they don't understand the gravel industry. It's because they care about the community that's going to be affected by it. And I can't listen anymore. I tried. I even told you personally. I said, man, I get that.
I remember that.
But I come to every meeting and I can't listen to it anymore. I can't listen to the arrogance that you're smarter than me.
No, that's not the case. That's not the case.
It was your house sitting there. I'm not going to argue with you. I've tried. I cannot come to any more of these and listen to it.
No, the issues that you bring up, the fact that there will be trucks going by your house is unarguable. You are 100% right. There will be increased traffic on that road. No question. When a doctor says that 60 miles downwind, people are going to die from silicosis, then I push back on that and I say, that's not a reasonable concern. But will there be trucks? Yes. Will those trucks be running over people? Will they be kicking up rocks that are going hundreds of feet and going through people's windows? Will people in Wolf Creek see rocks flying into the neighborhood from the gravel operation? No. There have been concerns that are so outlandish that are mentioned that I have pushed back on those. I apologize if that has been inarticulate, and it likely has been, if I have come across as saying, there's no change in any status anywhere. No, there will be. from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., whatever the county gives us, there will be more trucks on that road than there have been. We'll take care of the road and we'll drive them in a safe manner. But that doesn't mean to say you won't hear us. We have committed to no Jake breaks. I know that came up again. We've committed in writing. When I say we don't anticipate, hey, fair enough. If this society's become so litigious and angry and our government doesn't tell us the truth anymore, I can see how you'd want to parse each of my words. And that's fair. But the fact is, I am happy to enter into these agreements in writing. Bruce Larson was frustrated that when I spoke to the state, I kept saying, we don't know yet, we don't know yet, we don't know yet. But that's the reality of a large operation is we're looking into it. We're pretty excited that we've cut the activity in that area 60%. I'm pretty happy that we've committed to no Jake breaks. It's going to cost us more on brake repair. Okay, but that's important. That's right. They're not as loud, but they're loud.
All I'm saying is
You're right.
over and over, and what I'm saying is you're acting like people have signed a petition without understanding, and what I'm saying is
agree
they're
with that.
signing
They have.
it because there are some concerns.
Yes, there are.
And that, I thank you, because I have not heard you say that.
And there will, no, I apologize. This is, to slice this as accurately as it should be done, I've obviously not done a good job of that. Bruce was surprised that we're going for a large mine operation. We said that from the very beginning, but it's a confusing process to get through. In addition, I agree and appreciate your candor. I really appreciated your candor when you came to me and you said, look, I'm listening, but I've got kids here. There will be increased traffic on Coates Road, unquestionably. And it'll be increased traffic during daylight, and there'll be big trucks. And we think we can run them responsibly and we'll maintain the road. But you're right, there will be increase and it will be noisy. And it's funny that you mentioned an empty horse trailer, because I've gone up Coates Road behind an empty horse trailer, and you're right, that's a noisy proposition. You hear it from a long ways off. That's absolutely accurate.
My name's Kelly Walsh, and I live on the east end of your project, the far east end. I live on the far east end of your project, so it's not going to affect me at first. But my biggest concern is I'm against your pond.
Okay.
We don't need to pump groundwater to make a fishing hole for people that can go right down here to this river and fish anytime they want. I have a brother-in-law whose mother lives on Wolf Creek. When they went in and put Hogadon in, her well was affected by Hogadon. It's taken years for them to get their water back the way it is. And you can't guarantee, you talk about 2 feet, 15 feet, 30 feet, 120 feet. I had a friend who had Hillcrest bottled water before it became Hillcrest, the Baubin family. Most of their water wells were dug at 12 feet on their property. So there's water in the valley, but I don't think a 40-acre pond is the answer. If you can't reclaim it like they do a coal mine or a uranium mine, where you rebuild the contours and put it back as good or better than it was, that's the part that I'm against.
Okay,
I
that's
do
an
not
option.
want to use the water.
That is
for
so
a
far
fishing
down the
hole.
road, and that's fair. That is, when you get to that point, we have options in front of us. That's years down the road. And if the right answer is, look, there's not enough water here to put any additional water resource in, then we'll recontour it like it is and we'll move on. Although we'll end up planting more durable grasses. 'cause
And I'm
that's what we
okay
do.
with that. And you explained that very well at the beginning. Water is very precious and we can't afford to waste it, like you said. I
agree.
lived in Las Vegas for 40 years. I just moved back. I grew up in Casper.
And your name really is Kelly Walsh?
It is Kelly Walsh. I'm the grandson.
Okay.
Okay, so
That's cool.
but I had a pool in my backyard in Las Vegas, and I was putting water in that darn thing at least once a week because of the evaporation, and it was only 36 feet long by 15 feet wide. 8 feet deep. That's a pretty big hole. You're talking about a 40-acre pond. That's a lot of evaporation, and we don't need that when water is a precious commodity. That's my biggest.
Fair
reason
enough.
for being-
And that's something, again, the state hydrologist will determine all of that. Where that goes at the end, I don't know. That's speculation. And what we need to do is tailor it for the resource that's there and leave it better than we found it. And that's the challenge in this state. We have a certain amount of high mountain desert that looks worthless to the world, and we're bringing trona out of it. We found a bunch of natural gas down in the Green River Basin. You know, so where we can find something that's useful in this state, well, we got to bring it to bear because it's hard to make a living here.
I agree with the people that live on Coates Road and around the area. You have to protect their water. That's a big concern. And I don't care about my kid playing 100 yards from the street. My kids are all out of college. It doesn't matter to me. But the water is very precious, and a lot of these people are on wells, and you haven't really shown any way. We can go down, 1,200 feet and we can find water for them. That's great. But are you going to pay for that?
Yeah.
To get their wells?
Yeah. No, I said that. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. If we negatively impact someone's water supply, we believe there are multiple zones to which we could drill, case, bring power, run a pump, hand it over. The operating costs after we've done all the capital, we would shift that to the homeowners. Or if we drill that and we can't find that, you could bring city water up in those different areas. No one should be left without water.
Who's going to pay for the city water?
Well, then not operating costs, but all the capital to bring to their home, we would. I think that'd be reasonable.
Well, shouldn't you have to pay for their water for 10 or 15 years because you've disturbed their wells? You want the city to put a pipeline to their front door,
Right.
and then you want them to pay the city for the water that you screwed up.
No. I'd pay for the pipe to their house.
Well, how long are you going to pay for their water?
No, I don't pay any of their operating costs currently. So if they have a well, they run their pump on their well, they run their filtration system, they do whatever they do. Operating costs are operating costs. But if they lose access to something, then I think it'd be incumbent on the company to recreate that access. But the operating costs, I think, would be theirs.
But if your operation screws up their wells, aren't you responsible to fix their wells and pay for some of that cost?
Well, I think you just said if our operation ruins their wells, then we can't fix them. So I don't understand that.
Well, you want to fix it by running a water line up there
or replace it by drilling a well, you bet.
And make them pay the city at that point.
Well, they would pay for regular water.
They're paying for electricity right now to run their pump.
Right.
A lot cheaper to run a well than it is to pay the city for water.
Fair enough. And that's exactly right. I think what you're saying, we're down into a real detailed area. I think over 90% chance we're not going to affect anybody's water supply. I really think but we have said as a company, we would be happy if we can demonstrate we've had an impact to work to mitigate that impact. And I think the two ideas we've come up with, we did a little research to find out there are a lot more zones than 2 feet. And candidly, if you're at 2 feet, you're risking giardia for your family. You need to go deeper. You're not filtering water at 2 feet. That's a serious health risk. But be that as it may, we could find a deeper well and drill a deeper well, case it, run a pump, run electricity, and hand it over to them. And I think that's a reasonable accommodation if we have that impact. Another thing we could do if you drill a bunch of wells and you can't find anything, you can bring city water. I don't think anyone should be left without water, and we want to be a responsible neighbor. There's a resource here that I think should be developed, and we are willing to mitigate impacts that we have.
Okay. My biggest concern, like I said, is the water, my biggest concern. And as long as you backfill it, reclaim it like you would a strip mine, I don't have a problem with that. However, I don't think you should be messing with the groundwater. Thank you.
Interestingly, when we drilled our test holes, we never saw any water anywhere.
Hello. Hey, Kyle. I think we spoke at the end of the last meeting. I think you recall chatting with me. Two things with that groundwater. Yes, that is very interesting because it would be probably affected. My one well is shallower. It is used for the area for...
Bring your mic just a little bit closer, please. Thank you.
For actually my livestock and my hay fields and stuff like that. So that upper well, yes, it would be affected.
Well, I don't know if it would be affected. Where is it your well in section 35?
Yes, we'd have to double look on there. I believe it is.
I don't think what we're gonna do with this LMO is gonna go anywhere near. So
So if you'd go right across
you
from
can
Chris
see
Navaro.
here, you can see here our gravel LMO would be here. And what I did is put each of the drainages in blue. And because the drainage is the lowest hydrodynamic head in the system, is the creek, everything flows to that. So what we're doing over here would affect flow this direction toward this drainage. Chris Navarro's well is over here. It's not going to be impacted. There's water coming away from his well toward this creek. So this isn't a separate drainage. Same thing would happen over here. If you're dealing with something over in 35, this has to do with something that we simply won't be.
But once you already, after you mine that and you move on.
And when the time comes, absolutely, we'll look at that. And if we have an impact, we're here we will work something out.
So the gentleman's question about, the kids and stuff, I think I made a statement to you. I asked you how much weight one of those things, how much weight a truck actually has on it. And you said,
I think there'll be 40-ton loads, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what a semi weighs unloaded.
Okay.
So I apologize, I can't answer that. About 20, so call it 20,000, so another 10 tons, so say 50 tons. Okay,
okay. So, and we said you said that you would not drive over 20 miles an hour.
correct.
So I would like you to put one of your family members beside the road and try to stop that truck at 20 miles an hour.
Well,
Because that's a predicament you're putting that gentleman in with all the other people along Coates Road. Put them in the exact same position, your family in that exact same position.
it is a county road being used
I agree.
for
I agree.
industrial operations.
I agree. But
I live off of Poplar, and there are trucks and there are bikes that go by there, and when you're walking, you better pay attention. You are right. On a state highway or on a county road, it is an industrial site, and there are traffic accidents every year. I don't know what the death toll is on Wyoming highways right now, but I
Agreed.
don't think anyone's recommending we shut down our highways.
Agreed. But now you're pushing stuff through that property that was never there before. And you're
Well,
putting people in danger
It
now.
was there before, but it hasn't been for some time. That's true. There was a
There's-
gravel pit
and
up.
you're-
Greg
you're
Werger's
right.
house is built on a gravel pit.
Right. You're
So
exactly
we're
right.
restarting the gravel operation in that area, and it is a change.
Yep.
It is a change.
So, and there's more people living there than when that gravel pit was.
Correct. Yep.
So then you're putting more people in danger driving up and down that road, correct?
If you consider a truck at 20 miles an hour putting someone in danger, then that would be an accurate statement.
I
don't consider that.
I would like you to drive one of those trucks at 20 miles an hour and jam on the brakes and see what happens at how long it takes you to stop. I challenge you to that.
Do you think that Wyoming industry should change its standards?
Not change our standards, change where people want to mine and people are against a mine. Yes, by all means.
Okay.
So if it was the exact same thing and your family was sitting in that exact same spot, would you be okay with that?
Yes.
You'd be okay.
I know Chris has misquoted me as saying, I don't want to have this near my house. I want to answer that question. I told you, Chris. I'm not going to answer that question. I did say that because you had started asking me so many questions that were repeat questions, and I'd already answered it. I said, Chris, I'm done repeat answering all your questions. I don't try to control what my neighbor does with their land. I can wish what my neighbor did with their land, but they have private property rights, and I don't try to control what they do. That's the answer I gave you. You asked me that question 4 or 5 times, and at the end, I finally said, Chris, we're done talking. I'm not answering your questions anymore. I think the phone went silent, and I think you had 3 or 4 people in the room, and you were asking them what to ask me, and then you'd ask me. I'd be happy to have a relationship with you and have a conversation with you, but it sure seemed like your emails will say, ask him this. So come on, Chris. Am I talking to you? Am I talking to somebody else? That's why I said that. I don't consider a truck running at 20 miles an hour on a county road to be putting people in danger. I don't.
Got a question over here in the back.
Oh, we'll keep them at 20.
I'm not at Carol Sweeney's place, and all those trucks coming out from there are going faster than 20 miles an hour. There's dust, there's trucks all day long.
from 7 in the morning till 5 at night,
Think
sometimes
about the
6.
trauma that you're putting that family in. Think about the trauma that truck driver's gonna have when he smashes over somebody and runs over somebody. Think about that trauma. What type of trauma would you have when you kill someone? You have a perfect example right now to say, whoa, guys, I've pushed this as far as I need to push it, and I've done what I've needed to do, and I think I need to listen to what people are saying. But when you run over somebody and you kill somebody, it's gonna change your life.
I think that we are beginning to look at the concept of fear should stop development and activity. And mankind should just go home and have a retirement community, and let's just take what we've got and let's no longer develop this country anymore. And I think that there's
But just not in those areas. There's a place and a time to develop things in certain areas. That is not.
I agree. And that's
not a place or a time.
You have struck upon the exact topic and issue. And whether we agree on that or not, but I agree that's the question. Is this the place? Is this the time? Is a county road appropriate for light industry? That's a question. I think a county road is.
We have another question in the back over here.
The issue I've had listening, and I've listened to you, Mr. True, is there's a lot of placating going on.
Can you remind me what that word means? I'm sorry.
To try and downplay, to lie about how severe something's going to be. Good enough definition?
Well, I'll accept the first half. I'm not sure there's any lying.
Well,
We
you
do have
started out
different-
saying this was going to be a LMO, and the gentleman was correct.
Right.
You
It will start out as an LMO.
We know this is a backdoor approach.
It's
You
not a
should have
backdoor,
been.
it's
You
a
should have
front
been
door.
honest
No, it's
and
a front door.
forthcoming from the start with these
We
people
have.
that you wanted a large mining operation.
have.
It was 1889 that the trust land was set aside by the state, and it was set aside for the funding of schools at a time that the population was not great enough to carry the load of property or the schooling. How many of you people love your property taxes? Anybody, you want to show your hands? You love it? No? Neither do I. I've been to the state testifying. I wrote a petition. I circulated a second petition. And you're placating again that this could decrease property taxes. I call BS. It's never enough for the schools. And the revenue coming off of that property is not something that the schools need. It's not an appropriate location. 73% of our property taxes is funding public schools. We're not getting quality education out of those schools. So to say that this may help, don't go down that road, sir, because you know as well as I do that it's not enough. And you're talking about private property rights. This is not your private property. This is trust land, set aside in trust, and that suggests that it's for trust of the people. The preamble to our Constitution has posterity written into it. Do you know what posterity is?
I'm familiar with the word.
It's for future generations to conserve. Our founding fathers wrote that into the preamble knowing that we needed to be looking out for the future. Okay? It's important. So this land in trust is our land. The school does not need that money. They don't need that revenue. They don't. It's a subsidy. I'll say it. You utilizing this land, you didn't have to purchase that land. You're utilizing it at our expense. If you had purchased it, if it was your own private property, like I told you at the end of the last meeting, I would be 100% behind you because it would be your private property. This is not the case. So I stand with these people because you weren't forthcoming. I don't like that. I don't like it of our politicians. A man is only as good as his word.
We never claimed we were only going to do an LMO. It's a confusing process, but it is the process. We're following this standard process. You first put in an LMO. While you're mining your LMO, you put in for a large mine. We never claimed we didn't have an eye toward that. And that is the fact that it was misunderstood. I'm sorry, it's a complicated process, but we have simply not been hiding that. And we do think a 30-acre operation up there could yield hundreds of acres of resource while we reclaim concurrently.
Well, I think we've gone through.
And
Do
you don't.
you have just one more question? Just, okay. Can we just squeeze in one more question and we'll go ahead and close it? Okay. We'll just do a couple quick here and then we'll go ahead and close it up for the evening just so we can keep our time.
I know you've kind of downplayed that we've got 14,000 signatures on this petition and that you think it's invalid because people are being misinformed. But, you know, you could get your own petition going for people that do want it here in Casper. I would love to know the numbers of actual people who really believe that this is a good thing for Casper and that they want it in that location. I don't think that's a problem. You should try to get as many people as you can to believe in what you're trying to do. We're trying to get as many people believe in what we're trying to do to stop you because we don't want it in our neighborhood.
Ma'am?
Okay, Nina DeVore. And one question I have is, have you applied for your air quality permit yet?
No, that's in process.
Okay, so it's in process right
Yeah,
now.
it's in process.
Okay.
I mean,
Thank you. I know there's a lot of questions that still people are going to have, and I suppose all the reporters will have a lot of questions too. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. We're just running short of our allotted time, and I do appreciate that everybody kept it civil, passionate, but civil. Thank you for coming out tonight.